Okay, so let's take a look at glands and their secretions. And we're going to start off here with the pituitary gland. Now, I do want to point out to you guys, what you should need to know for the rest of this chapter is you need to know what glands secrete what hormones, and then what those hormones do. So we're going to start off with the pituitary gland. So here's the pituitary gland, there's our hypothalamus. It's found in the cella turcica, that pituitary gland. There are two parts of our pituitary gland. We have an anterior portion and a posterior portion, and they're going to secrete different hormones. The anterior portion is made of epithelial tissue, is epithelial in origin. Our posterior is of nervous tissue in origin. So this is showing all the hormones secreted here. You can see there's quite a lot. The first is growth hormone, so showing growth hormone there. This is abbreviated GH. This stimulates cells to increase in size and divide more frequently. So essentially it causes tissue growth. The major targets on there are bones and skeletal muscles. Now if you have my notes, skipping over the rest of the stuff I talk about with growth hormone, because I've already talked about some of that stuff before. All right, now let's look at thyroid stimulating hormone, and it does just what its name says. It is abbreviated TSH. All right, this stimulates the normal development and secretory activity of the thyroid gland. Now, if you have a lot of thyroid stimulating hormone secretion, this can stimulate growth of the thyroid or goiter to show up. Next is adrenocorticotropic hormone, or ACTH. And this is going to cause our adrenal cortex to secrete corticosteroid hormones, and that's going to help the body resist stress. Next are gonadotropins. All right, so gonadotropins are hormones that exert their actions on the gonads or the reproductive organs. Now, I do want to point out, gonadotropins is just a broad term for any hormone that's going to affect the gonads or reproductive organs. So there's only two that are secreted out of our anterior pituitary gland, but estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, those are also gonadotropins. So the first one here is follicle stimulating hormone, or FSH. So this has different functions in males and females. We'll cover the males first because it does less with the males. So with males, it stimulates the initial production of sperm cells in the testes at puberty. In females, it's going to cause a growth and development of egg-containing follicles in the ovaries. So if we go to this picture here, this is showing an ovary here. And so it's going to cause these things right here called primordial follicles to eventually become this thing, which is a mature Graafian follicle. All right, so follicle stimulating hormone is going to cause that maturation process. All right, and it's also going to cause these follicular cells, these cells within the follicle, to produce estrogens. All right, next is luteinizing hormone, LH. Luteinizing hormone in males has a smaller role once again. It stimulates the testes to secrete testosterone, so the initial production of testosterone. In females, it has more of a function. So in females, it stimulates a corpus luteum in the ovaries to secrete estrogen and progesterone. All right, so this is the corpus luteum. So this is a follicle containing an egg. All right, so if we get back to that picture, so this is a corpus luteum containing an egg. Ovulation is where we release the egg from the ovary. Luteinizing hormone also causes that ovulation to occur. All right, and then it's going to cause this, which is the remainder of the follicle, now without the egg in it, that corpus luteum to produce estrogen and progesterone. All right, and we'll talk later about that this is going to cause a buildup in the endometrium and so on, but yeah, we'll keep that for the later chapters. Okay, so let's move back here to our anterior pituitary gland. Next is prolactin. So prolactin is here, so it's abbreviated PRL. It promotes milk production in mammary glands. It also enhances testosterone production in males. All right. Next is melanocyte stimulating hormone, and this increases melanin production in the melanocytes that are in our skin. Next is the posterior pituitary gland, and there are two hormones that are secreted from this one. So the first is antidiuretic hormone, which is found here. So ADH, antidiuretic hormone, regulates the concentration of body fluids. Antidiuretic means, an antidiuretic reduces your urine volume. So what it does is it causes our kidneys to conserve water. So what our kidneys are going to do is they are going to filter our plasma. They're going to get rid of metabolic waste, excess salts, and excess water. All right, that's what becomes urine. But when we secrete antidiuretic hormone, we're going to retain more of that water in our body and not urinate it out. Antidiuretic hormone is also a vasoconstrictor. But one of the things about antidiuretic hormone is that its secretion is inhibited by alcohol. So when you drink alcohol, you inhibit the secretion of antidiuretic hormone. And because of that, you're going to urinate out more fluid than what you ingest. And that's why you become dehydrated from being intoxicated. All right? So if you have a deficiency of ADH, you don't secrete a whole lot of ADH, this leads to a type of diabetes called diabetes insipidus. So you urinate out large amounts and you have intense thirst. Now, this is not to be confused with the more commonly known of diabetes called diabetes mellitus, which has to do with your blood glucose levels. This does not have to do with your blood glucose levels or insulin. This just is your deficiency of ADH secretion. So the last hormone out of here is oxytocin. And oxytocin does a few things. One, it causes uterine contractions during childbirth. It also contracts the movement of the milk in the mammary glands, allowing the milk to leave the mammary glands through the duct system. So in feeding babies, you actually have to produce prolactin and oxytocin. Prolactin to produce the milk, oxytocin to cause the milk to move out of there. Oxytocin is also an antidiuretic. All right. It also is used to stop postpartum bleeding. So as the uterus shrinks, it's going to release a lot of blood there, and it's going to inhibit that bleeding to occur. Oxytocin is also quote-unquote known as the love or cuddle hormone. Because anytime you have physical contact with your significant other, you're going to secrete oxytocin. And this is going to cause feelings of affection and content. So you're going to secrete oxytocin when you hold hands, when you hug, when you kiss, definitely during sexual activity. All right? And it also causes a few other feelings there of sexual satisfaction and emotional bonding. And what we see with animals that produce lots of oxytocin is they have very strong pair bonds. And the animals that produce almost no oxytocin is they have no pair bonding. They just get together to copulate and then they go their separate ways.